let's move on to another cult leader, shall we? So let's go ahead and talk about Jim Jones. You guys may or may not know too much about Jim Jones. I feel like everyone has a base understanding of who Jim Jones is. This guy right here is Jim Jones. So he had a church called the People's Temple, which was a new religious organization, and he ended up doing the mass murder suicide in Jonestown. It was rough. Yeah, this guy's rough, but this whole Jonestown thing, like I watched some of the actual footage when there was the camera crew that went there before they were like attacked and shot, and the footage of that was probably some of the most disturbing shit I've ever seen. One of the more disturbing things I've ever seen. I don't know how to say it. Like they're trying to essentially escape back to their plane. They're stopped from taking off. And then some of the cult leaders essentially have these huge guns, and they kind of start shooting people, and someone was video recording, and they record it, and you can just watch essentially bodies just fucking dropping. So he was essentially a leader of the People's Temple, which was a church. He convinced a lot of people to move with him to South America and start this like feudal colony. Let me see, do they have photos? So I guess you can kind of see where that is. It's vibing. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. So this is where things went bad, right? So visit by Congressman Ryan and mass murder at Jonestown. Essentially, like I'll cover it in more detail at a later time, but I'm sure everyone starts with good intentions. Like I want to think that, you know, but I'll never truly know that. I want to say he started out with good intentions, but essentially what this came down to though is starts this cult. They move to South America and it doesn't work out for him anymore, and they decide, I guess, the only way to like make it out to the next part of life or fucking whatever is to kill not kill everybody, but to just go to sleep for a very long time. And the thing is that from the people who survived, it was something like, I think they got the children first essentially and had the children drink the poison, which was a very, very toxic fucking blend of like, I guess cyanide poisoning is what it was, but it's Kool-Aid and cyanide. 909 inhabitants of Jonestown, 304 of them children, died of apparent cyanide poisoning. That's the influence this man had, that if you weren't even willing to kill yourself, that he could get someone else to force you to drink the Kool-Aid, which is where drinking the Kool-Aid comes from, although it's a bit of a deceptive phrase now that I think about it, because a lot of people were forced to drink it. So it apparently, here's what they say here. Empty packets of grape-flavored Kool-Aid found on the scene show that this was used to mix the solution along with a sedative. So it was cyanide-laced grape-flavored Kool-Aid with sedatives. And apparently, he had had large shipments of cyanide in Jonestown for several years prior to the November 1978 incident. So he'd known that this was the reality for some time, that this was what was going to happen, and it happened. Now, him, as they say here, and as it said at the top, he was found dead with a gunshot wound to the head that they say was consistent with suicide. So he couldn't even drink his own Kool-Aid. He shot himself. Anyway, that's that cult leader. This guy absolutely had fantasies of ultimate power, and obviously we can't know what he was thinking of because he's dead, but he wanted to be a god amongst these people, and the only way he could really do that is to get away from the US, get away from these people's families, isolate these people so there's no one else to rely on but him and his group. That's essentially what happened. Even if Jim Jones is not a narcissist or doesn't have any personality disorder whatsoever, there is really no denying that he acted like he had one. Again, we don't know. Can't diagnose him. He's dead. We can only look back at the actions and things that were said at the time to draw conclusions, but there is no conclusive, answer on what he was or was not, how he acted or how he was. Let's go to Charles Manson. All right, Charles Manson. Another joy. Apparently he died in 2017. Sick. I shouldn't normally be like celebrating this shit, but so Charles Manson, born 1934, died 2017. He died in 2017 after spending more than 4 decades in prison. Here's some of his quick facts. Born November 12th, 1934, died November 19, 2017. The Beach Boys released a song written by Charles Manson, Cease to Exist, renamed Never Learn Not to Love, as a B single in their 1969 album 2020. That's interesting. Anyway, that's a fun fact I didn't really care about. So Charles Manson, an American criminal who spearheaded a murderous campaign with his followers, the Manson family cult, who would make him one of the most infamous figures in criminal history. So he had this following of like 100 people, shared his passion for an unconventional lifestyle, hallucinogenic drugs. Manson's followers also included a small hardcore unit of impressionable young girls. They began to believe without question Manson's claims that he was Jesus and his prophecies of a race war. He was Jesus? Hold on, where's the narcissistic stuff? Ah, there we go. Lives in a fantasy world that supports their delusions of grandeur. Grandiose and self-importance. Interesting. Now, obviously, I cannot say he's a narcissist, but... So Paul McCartney said that the playground slide in Helter Skelter was a metaphor for the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Manson, however, interpreted the lyrics of Helter Skelter as incitation to begin a race war. He turned to the album and lyrics to justify his scheme and guide his followers to murder. Apparently they were BFFs with the Beach Boys or some shit. That's weird. I didn't know that. So here's lovely Sharon Tate. The Manson family, including Manson and his young loyal disciples, is thought to have carried out 35 killings. Most of their cases were never tried, in part for lack of evidence. The perpetrators had also already been sentenced to life for the killings on August 9th, 1969 for Tate, Abigail Folger, and celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring. And 2 more victims on August 10th, 1969, a wealthy supermarket executive and his wife. 35 murders. Now, if I remember correctly, she was pregnant at the time, was she not? Like, it was fucked up. Let me see. I don't even know why they killed her. I'll be honest, the story of this has been something that was really, really disturbing to me, and it's something I've never really dug into. I know I'm gonna have to. I know, but I don't want to. Oh yeah, 8 months pregnant, Tate pleaded for the life of her unborn child. She was mercilessly stabbed in the stomach by Atkins. Kasabian told of Atkins' chilling words to Tate before she stabbed her. "Look, bitch, I have no mercy for you. You're going to die. You'd better get used to it." She then used Tate's blood to write the word pig on the front door. However, instead of this brutal massacre sating the pathological Manson, he criticized the murderers for being sloppy. So they had to do it again the following fucking night to get better at it, apparently. Oh, the last person living in the house was a producer who turned down Manson, unfucking surprised. So they were apparently were arrested not on suspicion of the Tate LaBianca murders, but simply on the belief that they had vandalized a portion of the Death Valley National Park while they were hiding out in the Mojave Desert. So anyway, this guy most certainly convinced people to do absolutely horrific thing. I don't really think there's much to argue about with that. Quick facts. What the fuck? I'm sorry, this is so fucked up sounding. Like, we're talking about this murder and all this shit, and then it's just quick facts. Claimed to be Jesus. Wanted to be a musician. Never killed anyone himself, which was a big argument point. And 100 followers believed in Armageddon. Look down at me and you see a fool. Look up at me and you see a god. Look straight at me and you see yourself. This man was full of himself. Apparently he married a 17-year-old, so of course that's great. And by the next year, he had left her with child to be with a new lover. Yeah, the girlfriend in prison thing. He had a girlfriend while he was in prison. That's fucking gross. And he apparently died of natural causes, so he literally had to live out his entire life thinking about. He probably didn't even feel bad about this, to be fucking honest. So, let's go ahead and move on to talk about Waco. David Koresh.
Your feet.